Hello there everyone and welcome back to DML. So today we are going to be on the DML wiki because the Divine Dragons finally have been listed on the wiki, which means that now we can see what their second and third elements are, what their base stats are, and plus they do have some of the image files for some of these little cuties. Like, look at this baby Hades right here. Look at this guy. He looks absolutely adorable. I've double clicked it. But he's got little snakes on his head like the Medusa. We got the Apollon. This guy is so adorable. And then we got the little gondola with his gigantic lip. I know the gondola isn't a divine, but he's like my favourite thing of all time, okay? But anyway, on to the more important thing from this today is the fact that because we have these classifications, we can see what the base stats of these dragons are. So the main one I want to point out so far that we know of is the Zeus Dragon. So it shows how much we need in divine enchantment materials, but on the far right side it shows us here what his elements are, which are light and energy, putting him at a base stat of 82, which for anyone that knows the base stat of the Sumo, which is counted as the most powerful dragon in the game currently, he is actually one base stat higher. And that is just with light and energy elements. So can you imagine a divine dragon with shadow and light? That dragon is going to be by far the most powerful thing in this game, but the Zeus is already stronger than the Sumo. So I find that kind of scary. Very scary indeed. Then the Apollo dragon, or Apollon, whatever they want to call it, has a base stat of 79 with the fire and plant elements. And we have the Autumn Dragon's base stats here as well. His is 79. So there's only a base stat difference of 1 between these two dragons, which obviously when multiplied, it equates to like a ton. But some of these Divine Dragons are insane. Like, not even kidding. They have good elements, a couple of them, like fire and plant. There is so much use you can get out of that. Aphrodite is a fire and water, which, you know, makes sense for her breeding actually, but she has a base stat of 77, which is a little bit lower than some of the other dragons that I've mentioned, but again, they provide the bless skill onto allies as well, so that automatically kind of makes them much better than legendaries anyway. The Poseidon's sitting at 76. The Hypnos Dragon with the Void element and Wind is sitting at 78. So even though he has that crappy the crappy Void element, I actually like Wind. I do not like Void. But 78 is his base stat. If anything, you know, I guess that this Hypnos Dragon could actually work because, you know, if you have Wind and Void on the same dragon, that's going to give you a ton of survivability. So, if anything, for a Void dragon, I think he is definitely a good contender for, like, one of the best choices out there. So if you actually wanted a Void on your team, I would definitely suggest keeping him on there. For the Hades and Hephaestus, I believe that's how you say the second one, Hades is sitting at 78, which is basically just the skeleton dragon because he's shadow and earth, but obviously he looks a little bit cooler and he has the divine as well. And then the Hephaestus is sitting at 79 with fire and earth. I feel like, you know, we've got the Hypnos, which has the void, and if you want a good metal dragon, you know, fire metal. Very, very good typing, in fact. And again, an insanely high base stat, which I think is going to be higher than any of the legendaries that have those respective elements. So, you know, I definitely see a lot of teams that are going to have to be revamped, definitely. But, you know, we will have to wait and see. The Ares is sitting at 70 as his base stat, apparently, with the Divine, Earth, and Metal. I'm not sure if that's correct, I think it is, but overall the Ares is kind of a weak Divine, which I'm really sad about, because he looks so cool. He legit is like one of the nicest looking Divine Dragons that we have, but unfortunately he is one of the weaker ones. So he'll just be a nice dragon to keep in the Divine Habitat when he finally gets unlocked. And then finally, I haven't been through them yet, but the Hermes, which is the main dragon out of the event, which we will unlock for completing tier, or level 11. I keep saying tier. But he has a base stat of 77 with the plant and wind elements. We already knew that from the event anyway, but he is one of the weaker divine dragons that we have as well. So he may look nice, but his elements are still pretty good. Again, it's going to depend on what your team composition is, but very good dragons overall. You can see all of these yourself if you go on the DML wiki again. Just search up Divine, and if you go to the classification section, you can take a look at them yourself. But one thing that I wanted to mention before I leave for today is that it also tells you the breeding time of these dragons. And believe it or not, their breeding time is longer than legendaries. So we only have the hatching time so far, but hatching these divine dragons takes 4 days and 19 hours. So I'm assuming that that means that their regular breeding time is 3 days. So if legendaries didn't already take too long, these divine dragons do have increased breeding and hatching times, which, you know, that's fair enough. They are sort of the logical leap from, like, in strength from legendary then divine from what we've seen. So it does make sense that they would take longer to hatch, but at the same time, that's going to be so much waiting to have to do. I'm just glad that it doesn't cost more to, like, unlock their elements than it does for legendaries, thank goodness gracious, because otherwise I probably would have lost my head. But at the same time, if you want to take a look at any of these dragons, you know, just head on over to the wiki and take a look at the images section. All the latest images that have been added will be here. So they've got the other dragons that we've taken a look at before as well, like the Hellion. Look at him! So cute! I just love looking through all these new guys. They're just so nice. Then we got the baby Cappuccino, which, along with the Hermes, is, like, most people's favourite. Look at the coffee beans engraved into his thighs. Weird. Very weird. And he's got a little love heart in the top of his coffee head. Any Starbucks lovers are gonna love this dragon as well. But, for the most part, that is all that I wanted to touch on today, you know. Just the fact that these dragons, these divine dragons, are definitely going to wreak havoc on the current meta, and there's nothing that we can do about it. So save up as many of those enchantment materials as you can. Make sure you're saving up your food, because we are going to have to change our teams. There's no way that 3 legendaries are going to even have a shot against 3 divine dragons. So, you know, I go back on what I said. Maybe it is just going to be worth having 3 divine dragons. Like, what are some good combos, do you think? Like, out of these elements, we could have, if someone had the Zeus, then you could have the Hades if you wanted the earth element, and then maybe the Hermes if you wanted the wind element, or you could have the Hypnos or something like that. Like, those 3 together, I don't think anyone would be able to contest against them currently. Yes, you would have Shadow, you'd have Plant, you would have Energy for any shield or anything. I don't know. The possibilities are endless, of course. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys there to think about it and potentially think about how you might have to change your teams. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I will see you then.